Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday evening to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there tonight. Had yourselves a wonderful day, and I do hope everyone's had a great week out there so far. We got you a detailed update with the latest with the tropics, and what we're going to do first is talk about current conditions, the latest outlook from the National Hurricane Center. Then we'll go over all model guidance that reflects a pretty active period out ahead of us. The first thing we'll discuss is an area of energy off the coast of the southeast that could get going. And then most of our attention will go to way out here in the Atlantic, what we call the MDR, Main Development Region. And model guidance is very excited about the idea of a lot of tropical development. So we're going to speak on everything. We'll geek out with you guys a little bit, talk about the environmental background of the Atlantic and steering currents. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And of course, if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Not only does it give me an opportunity to pray over it, it gives many others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rocking and rolling tonight. Let's make sure this is going to work for us first. And we like to start off these videos by circling all the pieces to the puzzle out here in the Atlantic that we're going to be discussing. And there's not many things to talk about here as far as current conditions, but I will circle a couple things. First is post-tropical storm Dexter. This has really began to lose a lot of its tropical characteristics as it moves over the colder waters of the North Atlantic. So that's what's left over of Dexter. The next name is Aaron with an E. So what's going to take that? We got that to figure out. The next area we're watching is off the coast of the southeast. Now, there's a southern area to this right here, and then there's sort of this area right here embedded in this bigger circle. I want to watch this area right here. Some tropical moisture being indicated by the colors you see on your screen. You see the greens, the yellows, the reds, and the oranges embedded in those colors, and the blacks kind of embedded in all of that. That indicates colder cloud tops, deeper convection, taller updrafts. And the taller up these updrafts get, the colder it gets in the upper levels in the atmosphere. And this is reflected by the colors you see on your screen across the Atlantic. So this could drift into the eastern Gulf and maybe develop. As of right now, the National Hurricane Center does not have a chance of development in this region, but it does have a chance off the coast of the southeast still. It's dropped, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But this is kind of where it's saying the origins of this system is right now, sort of in this area. And this is a combination between tropical moisture, tropical wave, and also just a frontal boundary creating lift and thunderstorm activity. So will something get going? I think there's a possibility of it, but I really don't think this is going to be a big story. The next and last thing I'll circle is a large area way out here in the Atlantic. And I'm just going to circle the entire MDR, Main Development Region, okay? This area typically doesn't get very active until about mid-August onward into like mid-September. That is kind of the peak season out here. So we got this big area to watch. Right now we have an Invest 96L that's right into here, and it's kind of hard to separate it all between all this other convection, shower and storm activity, but it's, I would say, more so right into here. Okay, so we'll take a closer look at that here in a second. But listen, I want to watch this feature right here too, getting closer to the Caribbean. Some model guidance ensembles like the idea of some members of the ensembles like this trying to develop in the Caribbean. And I think we need to watch this little piece too, sort of the front end energy of what we call the monsoon trough. So enough of all that. I do want to watch a bigger wave that's going to come off Africa. And this is the wave that a lot of model guidance really likes to be a bigger system with higher end potential. So let's move past this. The latest from the National Hurricane Center. We'll get another update at about 8 p.m. And I'll mention on what I think could change over the next 12 hours of updates here in a second. But we still got a 30% chance of tropical development in this yellow area within the next few days. And where that yellow X is, that is where sort of whatever there is of this tropical system is located right now. But if you notice, this has dropped from a 40 to a 30% chance. So they've dropped the chances of this. And even if it was developing, they really like the idea of this going back out to sea. And we've been talking about that over the last 1 to 2 days about how model guidance has been shifting to liking that idea. The next thing I'll click on is this. We have bumped that up from a 50 to a 60% chance, well, the National Hurricane Center has, of developing sometime in the next 7 days. And of course, this is where the actual tropical wave is, right here where this orange X is. But 60% chance that this could develop into a tropical depression or our next named storm. Next named storm is Aaron. Now, besides all that, I want to watch for another area of interest to get highlighted right here. It would show up in yellow because normally they don't just go from no area of interest all of a sudden like a medium risk, which would show up in orange. It would show up here in the yellow. And I think they'll put a 20 to 30% chance of tropical development in this yellow area I drew somewhere for a wave that's going to emerge off Africa. So I just kind of want to show you current conditions, latest graphic from the National Hurricane Center first. But that's kind of my shot. And that's my prediction. I always like to give you my opinion, my thoughts on things, not jump on here, show you a bunch of model runs, and then head on out. But let's talk a little bit closer to home. Now, we're going to spend a little bit less time on this than what we've been doing just because model guidance has really dropped off on it, and it looks like even if it does develop, it might just head on out to sea. But we need to continue to watch it. So a little bit closer look at this, and like I said, this is kind of the southern area of this tropical moisture, and this is where we have a little bit of a low-level feature getting going right in here underneath some of this mid-level convection shower and storm activity. So we want to watch this right into here over the next few days, and it could drift kind of close to the outer banks or just head on out to sea. Even if it does or doesn't develop, I really think we'll still have some shower and storm activity with it. So let's go over some model guides with this. The latest Euro will start us off Friday midday, okay, next 36 hours or so. All you're really seeing is a bunch of green, blobs of yellow embedded in the green, orange, and red. So this is just a bunch of moisture, shower, and storm activity. Does anything kind of consolidate in anything notable? Not really. So we get into Saturday, and this is actually it, way out here in the Atlantic at this point. Nothing ever develops. Now, could we get something tricky that could continue to have the possibility of developing off the coast of the southeast even after this? Absolutely. So I would continue to watch the Northeast Gulf and off the coast of the southeast even into the weekend and even into early next week. For a lot of energy just getting trapped over the open waters of the Gulf or off the coast of the southeast and all of a sudden becoming something tropical. Chantal and Dexter being great examples of that. One actually hitting land, the other is still out in the North Atlantic right now. So Euro doesn't really show anything. What about the latest GFS that's running right now? We'll start off Friday midday. Doesn't develop anything. It does, but it develops it kind of right where Dexter went. Way out here, not bothering anybody but the fish out in the ocean. No offense to y'all. But does anything try to get going down here in the Northern Gulf? No, not really. So, both models don't really show much. Now, one thing to really pinpoint this energy is the lower level VORT map. 850 millibars, which you move that to feet, that's about 5,000 feet up in the air, above the ocean in this case. Shows some energy right in here, but it really doesn't get going until it just moves away. You see how, it kind of goes to that yellow to the orange and red, more highlighted colors here? That's your low level energy, but it moves away. So I could see that taking a name, kind of like Dexter did. Dexter, was a name that was taken by that storm system, still is, but it didn't bother anybody. It headed on out to the ocean and didn't bother a soul. So, yeah, it looks like model guides has just really dropped off on the idea of not necessarily a tropical system developing. They actually have percentage-wise, but I'm not as worried about this, even if it forms hitting land, but we still need to watch it. We'll continue to discuss it until I just feel like we don't need to anymore. Now, let's switch gears. This is where we'll spend the most time. Out here in the main development region. And I'm going to try to explain this where I don't want you guys to get confused about which waves we're talking about because there's multiple areas that we need to watch. So this is the Global Tropics Hazard Outlook. I think this was issued 2 days ago. It was issued the 5th, so that was yesterday. So if you look right here, this is between the 13th and the 19th of August, okay, week 2. In that red area, there's at least a 40% chance of a tropical system developing in this region. And the red and white striped area, there's a 20% chance. This means, in my opinion, that it's latching on to what the operational and its ensembles are showing pretty well. There's also a highlighted area behind this that has a 20% chance of tropical development. So what do you take from this graphic right here? You take that tropical waves are about to start emerging and probably about to tap into a better environment climo-wise. We're entering closer to peak to hurricane season and a favorable what we call MJO pulse of rising air. That convection will be easier to fire out here. The basin is going to moisten and we're certainly going to have more of an opportunity for tropical development. Now between the 20th and the 26th, which is getting pretty far out here, guys. But still, worth discussing. Still is highlighting a 20% chance of tropical development. So I want to start this update on this part of the video off with this, what the experts are saying with this. Okay, now I do want to show you a closer look at Invest 96L. This is the system that currently has a 60% chance to develop into a tropical depression or a named storm, tropical storm. Okay, right now, popping off convection. It's beginning to somewhat weaken now with what we call D-min diurnal minimum, which basically, we won't get into that right now. But some of the convection is kind of weakening, but it looks like it's re-popping off right in here, as indicated by some of these black colors right in here. So deeper convection. But anyways, what does it do after that? Okay, after what's going on right now. We take this into Thursday, and if I do forget to mention any kind of days of the week, things like that, or dates, it's up here. Look, don't focus so much on the Zulu time. There's no point in doing that unless we got a system that's about to make a landfall, right? Focus on the THU, which is Thursday, and then this is August the 7th, so tomorrow. It's saying that whatever this system is like a weak 10, 12 millibar low. Okay, but it immediately begins to gain latitude. It feels a weakness in the pattern, also gets kind of tugged by a tut, an upper level low that kind of yanks it north also. The further north it gets, the more it gets driven into drier air. Okay, a little bit of wind shear also. So honestly, I'm not really too worried about this system, in my opinion. But this is it. I mean, it don't look like much, just a blob of green with some yellow in it. Just think of that as some sort of tropical system, but probably weak. You continue to move forward here. Two things are going on. This system up here is trying to strengthen, but it's heading on out to sea. But this wave that's been getting a lot of attention on social media begins to show up on our screen. This is the wave that has everybody's attention. And not just everybody's attention, it has my attention too, guys. But this looks like a pretty healthy wave as we get into early next week. Okay, we're getting to Tuesday morning, August the 12th. Here it comes. We get into next Thursday. So we're about a week from right now. We got 1,007 millibar low. I want you to know, for any new viewers or anybody that just doesn't understand what millibar low pressure is to actually how strong the system is, once you get to about 1,000 millibar low, that's when you get your eyes on it, really. That's when you say, okay, hey, this can be a tropical storm. You get sub 1,000 millibar low, that's when you start to get into a stronger tropical storm, and the lower it gets, the stronger the system. Okay, when we're talking about tropical systems. But what the Euro does is between day 7 and day 10, so we're getting all the way into next Friday, has this system gaining some latitude. But it is strengthening. Okay, and then this turns into a hurricane, sub 980 hurricane, and it looks like it's turning. It's recurving out to sea. That's not me assuming that's going to happen or forecasting that to happen. That's what this one model run is showing. What I want you to take from this is that it is developing the tropical wave big time behind the area of interest wave. So that's the latest Euro. And this continues to sort of take this out to sea. I mean, it recurves before it even gets close to Bermuda, which is right here. Okay. Now, I will show you the Caribbean. Does it develop anything out, that kind of lead wave that I discussed, kind of embedded into the monsoon trough right now? It really doesn't. But there's the hurricane recurving. That wave that has not been dubbed an area of interest right now, but I think will be here in the next 12 or 24 hours worth of updates for the National Hurricane Center. So that's the Euro. What about the latest GFS? And this is new to me too. I haven't even looked at this yet. So we're going to be going over this together. But starting off tomorrow, midday, got a 10-11 millibar low. Okay, that is the area of interest wave. Okay, the one that has a 60% chance to develop. And folks, I'm reiterating the same information because I don't want you to get this wave confused with the wave behind it that really has everybody's attention. But the tropical wave on the GFS continues to want this to just get further west. And here it goes. It just finally recurves, but it recurves so late that it actually flirts with the idea of going into Bermuda, but it's a weak low. Now, the GFS is, over the last few runs, is really like that second wave. About a day ago, it didn't like this wave at all, but it strengthens it very fast. I mean, out here in the eastern Atlantic. So because it strengthens it so fast, and by the way, the GFS does develop the first tropical wave and actually develops it really close to Bermuda, turns this eventually into a tropical storm, maybe even a hurricane north of Bermuda. And then multiple things happen here. First off, we got some energy right into here, which could be the energy of what the Euro is showing. Or is it this? And I know you're thinking, well, does this guy know what he's talking about? what I want you to understand is that once we get to the mid-month time frame, which is next week, the entire monsoon trough is going to be very convectively active, in my opinion. So there's going to be an opportunity for areas of energy to really get going anywhere embedded into the MDR, main development region, way out here. Now, the GFS likes to latch onto this area, and this area on this specific run 1 week from now has a little baby tropical storm, very compact tropical storm right here. Okay? And as we continue to get to day 10, it has a wave right here getting into the Caribbean. Okay? And then that's as far out as we can go. One thing that interests me is if you look at the run prior to this, at day 10, it has a major, close to a major hurricane just east northeast of the Lesser Antilles right here. What I want you to take from that is it's further away. It's already much closer to the Lesser Antilles. The current run has this slower way back here. So you do got a strengthening hurricane going, looks like it's heading right towards the Caribbean islands at day 10 and a half. That's very, very far out. Now we flip this and actually we already have it up. We flip this and we look. Let's go all the way out to about day 10. We got a pretty decent, strong tropical wave, depression, maybe storm right here. Some sort of lower pressure. And then we got a hurricane behind it. Okay? So what you take from this is it looks very active. It looks like things become much more favorable next week. And, I can flip and, go and look at this, see if this is a little bit more ahead here. And I'm just going to do this on the fly for people who are like, man, I want to see the rest of the run. Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because, it does, but it's going to change. But, yeah, it's not much further ahead. Got a low right here and you got a low right here. Okay, and this is a 997 millibar low. So there's a lot going on here. And I know you're thinking, well, I don't see a whole lot, but this is about 10 and a half, 11 days from now when you got a strong tropical system here and one that looks like it's trying to get its act together here. So, if you look at the Euro AI model, it continues to light the second wave. And it takes it, gets into the Southwest Atlantic, which I've mentioned many times is an area I'm concerned about. And once again, just wants to plow a hurricane right through the Bahamas and then take a hurricane right into Florida. Something about the Euro AI model, it really just wants to hit Florida with a hurricane. I don't know if it has beef with Florida or what it is. And I know you're like, man, it's not funny. Well, it's a model run for 360 hours out, just trying to make a lighthearted joke. So I know people get offended about things very easily these days, but I understand the tropics is a very sensitive topic too, especially what happened with Helene and stuff like that. But there is something weird with the Euro AI model. It continues to light to hit Florida. It probably doesn't mean anything, but this will be a test for this model. But just like the Euro, it likes the idea of that second wave developing. So we'll continue to watch it. And if you do look at ensemble guidance from the Euro, remember there literally isn't like 30-something low pressures. This makes up a 51-member ensemble mean, so it's going to throw every low pressure that forms on an output for us. One thing I want you to notice as we start this Saturday morning is there is a signal for that lead energy on the monsoon trough that I just talked about, which, by the way, is right. I just want y'all to kind of understand what's going on out here, which is right here. This area right here. It likes the idea of something into here developing, and you can see as we switch back to this, it's picking up on some energy getting going here. But as you move forward here, it's a strong recurving signal for the area of interest wave right now that has a 60% chance to develop. Invest 96L. It just really looks like that's going to recurve. Now, let's ignore this now. I know it's an eyesore right in the middle of your screen. Just ignore it. It looks like this is recurving, but let's not completely rule it out. We still need to figure it out. But it takes the members that do form something out of this lead energy in the Atlantic and gets a few strong members into here. This is only, not even 10 members out of 50, 51. So, only like maybe 15 to 20% of the members. But you got to watch this. I think it's worth discussing if it needs to be discussed more. but mentioned at least in this video. Then you get a signal for this wave behind the lead wave. And this is what model guidance really likes, guys. We get about a week out, and you see many members here. Okay, a few scragglers right in here. But what I want you to notice here, and I'm going to want to zoom in on this. Oh, that did not work out well. Here we go. Now this is gonna, well, let's do this. This is gonna probably make this, yeah, I knew that wasn't gonna work. So let's do this. I do apologize. Not every video is gonna be super crisp, guys. But let's go about 1 week out. And here it goes. Here comes the signal for that wave behind it. I want you to notice, it's gonna have to load because I had to reset it. These members are not tight together, which means that some of them are faster, some of them are slower. Faster, slower members. And I think that's why you just saw a big difference between two different GFS runs, one from around this afternoon and one this evening. So you continue to move this forward into about day 10, and there's a pretty big spread, but in general, you got an area that's obviously liking the idea of some sort of tropical energy being in place right in here. So, and some of these members are strong, and a lot of them are not that strong. But I want you to note that I think the better environment would happen on down the road, like in the Southwest Atlantic, the Caribbean, and the Gulf. I don't buy what the GFS is showing as far as already a tropical storm in the Eastern Atlantic. I mean, that doesn't happen a lot. Now, the GFS ensemble, this only makes up 21 members. First wave recurves, and then you got that little signal for the lead energy right here showing up. And then here comes a lot of L's being littered on your screen, symbolizing that wave behind the lead wave. And yeah, I mean, the GFS ensemble is a lot louder than it was, say, 24 hours ago. And by the time you get into day 10, there's a heavy signal for tropical activity. That's what I want you to take the most out of this. There's a heavy signal for tropical activity. Okay? Now, the environmental conditions, this is the part of the video that will kind of lull some people to sleep. That's why it's a huge goal of mine to explain things in a way where you guys, the audience, can understand. So the first thing I want to discuss is dry and moist air. Cut and dry on your screen, literally. I mean, the brown is dry air, the green is moist air. Okay? Tropical systems don't like dry air. They like moist air. So this is our first wave. And this is kind of about where the Euro ensemble is trying to say where there's dry and moist air right now. As you can tell, there's kind of just an area of dry air that's dipping down pretty far south into the Atlantic. Okay, here comes our wave, kind of going to plow right into that dry air. Now, what that wave does is it kind of sacrifices itself. Now, at the same time, guys, I do think that, you know, this system, and I don't know what's going on with my panels here. Let's see if we can get this in motion. Here we go. Okay, we're good. I was like, oh no, is my internet going down? But here's the first wave, right? It kind of creates a moist environment. Now, some more dry air does try to dig in front of the second wave that the models are very excited about. But it just plows right into that. Doesn't do a whole lot. We get about a week from today. Okay, what I want you to look at here is there's probably going to be some sort of tropical wave, maybe even a tropical storm. So there's going to be a lot of, I think, energy a week from today in the MDR, main development region out here. But I want you to now notice how this entire area right here is very moist, green. Okay, and it continues to look that way. It's reinforced, and by the time we get into the second half of August, the entire Atlantic basin out here looks moist. Okay, and I think this is put in place by a favorable pulse of rising air that's going to be moving into this area. We discussed that a little bit more detail in this morning's video. The thing that I'm also concerned about is if in any tropical energy that's well intact makes it into the Caribbean, the Southwest Atlantic, or the Gulf, the upper wind pattern is very stagnant, very light flow aloft. And what you're looking at here, I know you're like, dude, I just see a bunch of random areas of blue and a whole white and a bunch of squiggly lines on my screen. This is at 200 millibars, so 40,000 feet up in the air, above the actual tropical systems, if there is any here. So there's a lot of disbursement of air, but in general, there isn't a lot of air movement. So I expect one thing is if any tropical systems at day 10 kind of make it into this area or maybe this area, I don't think they'll be moving super fast. I also think there's not a lot of wind flow aloft, which means that these systems are not going to be blasted by wind shear. High level wind speeds in the upper levels of the atmosphere or changing of wind speeds. Every system deals with a little bit of wind shear. But I just think that in general, the upper wind pattern is going to be very supportive, mainly because of just a lot of light flow aloft. I think there's just going to be a pretty stagnant pattern down here. Once we get between day 10 and 15, there's not going to be much of a ridge influence, in my opinion. And there's probably not going to be any kind of tut or upper level low that's going to, drop down and sling something down and affect these tropical systems with wind shear. But this is something you discuss more when we actually have a tropical system that's developing. The next thing is that kind of backs up that is this. And I know, once again, this looks like a very boring screen. But once again, at 10 days out off the Euro ensemble, it just shows a bunch of white. Now, you see that salmon color up here, kind of the orange color. That's a little bit of ridging on top of the southeast. But down here, there's neither a lot of ridging. There probably is a little bit. But there's not a lot of upper level lows or cutoff lows either. So when you see a big white screen on the 500 millibar chart here, this tells me there's not a lot of flow down here, which means these systems can just kind of hang out and do their own thing. Now, when there's not a lot of ridging up here, this also allows for these stronger systems to sort of turn north easier. A stronger storm is going to want to gain latitude. Okay? One thing that's obvious. Sea surface temperatures support a tropical system. This is in Celsius, your 29, your 30s, your 31s you see on your screen. You turn that into Fahrenheit, that's mid to upper 80s. Bathtub water's out here in all these areas that I just checked off a couple minutes ago. No use in really getting any more detailed than that. So when you're looking at steering currents, guys, the reason why this first wave that has that 60% chance to develop, Invest 96L, is going to probably turn out to sea is because there's not a big ridge of high pressure over the North Atlantic, which is right here. So our low pressure, which is right here, which is indicating the blue, which means lower pressure. So are the warmer colors on your screen, higher pressure or a ridge. There's lack of it out here. So this is sort of our first tropical system. It begins to turn because it sniffs out a weakness. And then we see, and this is the Euro, and then we see our second wave come through. Now in the Euro, okay, you see how that number begins to drop, indicating a strengthening storm system as we get between day 7 and day 10. The Euro, yeah, I mean, there is a ridge over the North Atlantic, but I mean, it's kind of positioned way over here. I'm going to put this in black. It's kind of like way over here, right? It's not like anchored way down here. There's a little bit. So the flow around this ridge kind of goes like this, and there's a little bit of ridging here, but kind of like that and like that. This system's going to be, obviously geared east to west. So what happens? Does it sniff out this weakness here and go around this ridge? Does this ridge kind of build back this way? Well, let's see. We keep this in motion. There's a clear weakness right here in the pattern. You see the blue kind of attached to the actual lower pressure here, up here. Now, whether that's an upper level low, an upper trough, or just a weakness in the ridge, that is a clear avenue for this system to sort of turn out to sea. I mean, this feature right here, this ridge, isn't anchored over this area to kind of make this continue to go this way. That is a clear path out to sea. But listen, this isn't me forecasting where this potential tropical system is going to go. This is more of a learning lesson on your end, and I'm trying to explain it, hopefully in a way you guys can understand. If you remember me, I talked about this a couple days ago, and I've been mentioning it occasionally when discussing steering currents. I didn't understand why the Euro was plowing a hurricane through the Caribbean a few days ago. Because to me, there's not a huge ridging influence on top of the North Atlantic over the next week or so. So there could be a lot of tropical activity, but I'm not exactly sold on the fact that these are going to necessarily be at a high risk to impact land. I'm just keeping it real with you. Some people might tell you the opposite to get a lot of clicks, but I'm just not seeing a huge dominant ridge out here. But then again, it's 10 days out. We don't know exactly where the position of the ridge is going to be, but if you look at the Euro ensemble, same thing. Most of your ridging is kind of over here. There's your lower pressure, and it's already pretty far north in latitude. So, yeah, it's something to watch, guys. And, let's go back and, look at the the latest GFS just to see what it ends up showing, just to see if it backs kind of the lack of ridging. And I mean, it gets a strong hurricane north of the Leeward Islands, and this is as far as it can go, but it has 2 hurricanes. Takes some energy right here, turns into a hurricane, and a hurricane right here. That's very rare to happen. But what you take from this is things are about to get very, very active, guys. Folks, that's all I got. Appreciate y'all's support. Thank you for everything, and appreciate y'all's thoughts and prayers in the community post. Listen, hurricane season's weird. The invalid traffic has hit my channel the last 2 falls. Last year, it stunk, but it also taught me some things. But I'm always going to be on guard for that. And just if you guys see any bots, and I'm not talking about negative comments. Listen, I know I'm going to get negative comments below the videos, especially the ones that get a lot of views. I mean, this is going to happen. You don't have to report those. I'll handle that one way or the other. What I'm talking about is when you see some weird comments like promoting something or putting links that look odd, please don't click on these links. That's what I want you to report these things as like spam and stuff like that. That helps clear out the comment section. I don't know if that's going to prevent my channel from getting hit with invalid traffic again or not, but I think it helps. And we got a family type atmosphere on this channel, and I would appreciate you guys if y'all can help me tag team this for sure. So thank y'all for the support. Appreciate y'all. And yeah, that's all I got. We'll talk soon. We'll do it in the morning. God bless.